The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Kalshi. Make real money predicting sports. Kalshi is available in every state. Also, get $20 for free. Or sign up with the code SGPN. That's Kalshi promo code SGPN. And welcome everyone to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Currently Saturday morning, February 28th, around 11:40 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm Rosso Scott Reichel once again going solo for this pod. Time to break down the title match taking place in Acapulco on Saturday night. So we're going to break down the matchup between Caboli and Tiafoe in a few minutes. Before we get into the actual breakdown of that matchup, a reminder, support the show by subscribing on YouTube. You can also find the podcast on Spotify or Apple if you want the edited version audio only. So once again, a couple ways to find the podcast and a couple ways to support the show. Plus, a reminder, check out the SGPN app. Free to download in the App Store. All of the free content and picks that we have for SGPN are available in that one location. So once again, download the SGPN app, free to download in the App Store. Plus, a reminder, check out the actual merch store for SGPN. We have a lot of great Tennis Gambling Podcast merch. We have sweatshirts, we have t-shirts, we have mugs, different colors, different options. We also have hats now as a new item for 2026. So once again, check out the merch store if you want to get yourself some Tennis Gambling Podcast merch. So starting off with the recap of the last episode, we did a preview of the final in Dubai between Medvedev and Griekspoor, and it was a complete waste of time because Griekspoor withdrew from the event. We saw Griekspoor got injured against Rublev in the semis, still managed to win in straight sets, but the point is he did admit in the post-match interview that he did pull a hamstring, so we thought he might suit up anyway just to see how he was feeling for a title match, and decided, you know what, I can't play. And he's also going to be missing Indian Wells. So Griekspoor went from beating Rublev on basically one leg to missing a full month. So the real laughingstock here is Rublev, who couldn't even manage to beat a guy who was completely injured in the second set. He choked away the tiebreak, etc. But either way, point is Griekspoor decided that it was not in his best interest long-term health-wise to actually play in the final. So because of that, we did win outright. We had Medvedev to win Dubai at plus 750. So that worked out well, really stress-free because Medvedev didn't drop a set and then got gifted a title without having to play the title match. So either way, nice win for us on an outright at 750. Griekspoor, though, withdrawing was definitely not something that I really expected. I know some people were expecting it, but I just never assume anybody drops out before the title match. So a bit of a unique set of circumstances, but I understand it. Griekspoor, according to reports, couldn't really move, so he figured why bother. But either way, Medvedev got us the winner there at 750, so it could be worse. But once again, a bit annoying to record a full episode for the Dubai final just to not even have the match take place. So that's kind of a waste, but either way, once again, nice win for the outright there at 750. So moving on to the recap that happened on Friday. I know we mentioned a couple of the matches yesterday during the show. I'll just go through them a bit more in depth here. So for Santiago, we still have our two outrights left that we gave out. We did lose a couple earlier, but Hanfman beat Galvis in 3. Saw Cerundolo kill Navas 6-1, 6-1. We did not have either guy for an outright, but we do have the two guys against each other in the semis. We have Darderi, who beat Pellegrino in 3 sets, and we have Baez, who beat Tabilo in straight sets. Both those guys are around the same price. They are both available at around 7-1, and they play against each other in the semis, so we do have a guaranteed finalist in Santiago. So there is a chance that we actually could end up winning 2 out of 3 for the outrights this week. Of course, we do not have Tiafoe or Caboli in Acapulco. We had Tiafoe and Caboli to win their quarters, so at least they paid out pretty well. Tiafoe was 650, for example. So overall, it could be a very good week for us outright-wise. The 750 for Medvedev helps, not to mention all the quarters that we won in Dubai. So Dubai really just cashed almost everything for us. But either way, we still have a guaranteed finalist in Santiago at a 7-1 price tag of either Baez or Darderi. Either way, though, moving on to Acapulco, because, of course, that is the event we're talking about for this episode. So getting into the recap of what happened for the matches on Friday night, absolute chaos. That's really a brief way to describe it. So you had two separate wars. Kaboli ended up winning in 3, beating Kecmanovic in the process. Kaboli did win the first set in a tiebreak, while the second set 6-3, and then was down a break early in the third set, broke back. Then he broke again, and he served for the match, and he choked it, and then eventually he broke the game after to win. So either way, he hit a nice return winner on match point, and he was able to advance to the final. As for Tiafoe, this one was even crazier because Nakashima was up a set and was serving for the match at 6-5. He got broken. Then Tiafoe had a couple of set points. He choked those away, and then eventually did end up winning the tiebreaker. So either way, nice job by Tiafoe. Then he got the break early in the third set and eventually did end up winning. So you saw Kecmanovic give it a run. Kaboli choked, but he was able to get himself back on track. Full collapse by Nakashima, and nothing else to really add. We know Nakashima is a very good server in general on tour. Yes, the court speeds have been slow in Acapulco, so you have seen a bit more breaks than usual. But still, the point is if you're serving for the match and you're up a set, you got to like your chances. And he fell apart, and Tiafoe came back and he won. Nice job by Tiafoe to actually battle. But damn, Nakashima choked that match away so hard. But either way, a point is Tiafoe was able to survive. Again, ended up having to survive the round of 16 match against Kecmanovic as well, fighting a couple of match points there too. So Tiafoe's had a couple of close, I'd say, encounters with losing in this environment in Acapulco, but he has somehow managed to survive and now is into a final. We'll see if Tiafoe can get the job done. I'll point out, by the way, for Tiafoe, just for the sake of historical, I'd say, significance, he has 3 career titles, and I will point out that he has not won a single title since 2023. So it's been a little while since he's actually won a title, and we'll see if he gets the job done. But either way, I do think that you're looking at a spot where Tiafoe, we'll see if nerves play a factor, because he has not really been in many finals recently. Kaboli did win 2 titles last year by comparison. But either way, once again, a couple of really crazy matches in Acapulco on Friday in the semis. We'll see if the matchup on Saturday is going to be anywhere near as crazy as what we saw on Friday. Now, briefly looking at the other storylines going on in tennis, I don't believe there are many that are going on. Looking at some stuff going around here, the real story, by the way, is just how crazy the Austin event is for the WTA, because you've seen a bunch of upsets and a bunch of Cinderellas, and now you have Stearns, Birrell, you have Kruger, and Towson, who was a wildcard entry as the 4 semifinalists. The real story was Pegula dropping out right before the event, who was defending champion, and then you ended up seeing an upset courtesy of Jovic, who ended up losing in 3. And that was kind of the main favorite ranked player. So Austin's been kind of a circus too. So if you've been following the actual tennis landscape, a bunch of very, very unpredictable wars going on, both on the men's side and the women's side. But either way, a point is it has been a very fun week of tennis, and we'll see if that continues into the final in Acapulco and the semis, etc., in Santiago. Anyway, before we get into the actual preview of the finals between Kaboli and Tiafoe, a reminder that we're brought to you by our sponsor, Kalshi. It's a real money prediction market available in every state. Tons of trading options for your favorite sports. Besides sports, they also have other options like politics, entertainment, and even the weather. So check out those markets as well. Plus, a reminder, new customers get a great deal, courtesy of us. $20 when you sign up with the code SGPN. That's Kalshi, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm has been on a heater for college and for the NBA for picks. Use their model building. You can either build your own from scratch, use the leaderboard system, or you can also use the Rhythm house model to give you plays directly. And you can also pair it up with Kalshi if you want to try to mix both those together. But a reminder, if you're trying to go premium with the membership, use the code SGPN25. We download the app, and they'll get a nice 25% off your first month. That's Rhythm, RATHMM. Code SGPN25 for a quarter first month at Rhythm. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the recap of what happened in the semis in Acapulco. Time to move on into the final between Kaboli and Tiafoe. So for this matchup, the odds are pretty close. You're looking at Kaboli, who is a slight dog. He's around plus 115, give or take. For Tiafoe, around minus 135, give or take. For the over-under, I see 22.5 games, slightly juiced, or 23.5. 23.5, just for comparison, is around even money on the over. So once again, pick whichever line you want, and you can potentially lay some juice, but you can get some key numbers just for reference. For the game spread, minus 1.5 for Tiafoe, plus 1.5 for Caboli. For the set spread, you have Tiafoe in straight sets at plus 180, Caboli in straight sets at plus 265. Each guy to win a set is very, very juiced, but if you want to go for the over 2.5 sets, you can find that at around plus 125. For the tiebreak, no tiebreak is minus 132. Tiebreak is plus 104. Team total, both guys are at 12.5. Bit more juice, though, on Tiafoe for the over. The over 12.5 is minus 136. For Caboli, by comparison, it is minus 113. And Tiafoe under 12.5 is plus 105. Now, for the head-to-head history, it has been pretty lopsided. 2 career meetings. One was last year in D.C., the other was in Delray in 2024, and Tiafoe did win both those in straight sets. In fact, Caboli, in those 2 matches, won less than 7 games in each of them. So Tiafoe's not only won, he's won handily in the 2 career meetings. Now, I do want to point out that for the path so far, Tiafoe, I said before, has been very, very close to being eliminated on numerous occasions. Ended up beating Borges in the first round, beat Kovacevic, fought off a couple of match points there in the third set tiebreak, beat Bellucci in straight sets, a favorable draw after Bellucci did upset Fokina, and that ended up being a very easy win for Tiafoe. And then Nakashima was up a set in a break, and he choked as Tiafoe came back, and he ended up winning in 3. For Caboli, he has had an interesting event as well. Ended up beating Pacheco Mendez in the first round in straight sets. 2 tiebreaks, though, so not very easy. Ended up winning the next round in straight sets pretty easily. Beat Yibing in the next round, which was a very close first set, and then Yibing fell apart as Caboli did win 6-1 in the second set. And then he had a phenomenal win against Kekmanovic, which was very, very back and forth. Got the job done, though, against a guy who beats Zverev in the event. So it's not like Kekmanovic was playing bad tennis. We saw him start to heat up a bit more in Dallas and in Delray. And then he ended up, of course, showing up here, beats Zverev. So a good win there against Kekmanovic, despite the overall ranking for him not being very good right now. But Caboli found a way to win, and now he advances into the final. Said before, Caboli did win 2 titles last year, and Tiafoe has not won one since 2023. So we'll see if Tiafoe has any nerves that play a factor in this matchup. I will point out, by the way, for the actual schedule, Caboli did play for about 2 hours and 30 minutes on Friday night, and Tiafoe played about 3 hours, but Tiafoe was the late match. So Tiafoe played longer, and he has less time to recover, but it's by about half an hour. So not exactly an insane amount of time difference between the 2 of them in the semis, but I do think it's an advantage for Caboli that he played less by comparison, and once again, Tiafoe has a less time to recover despite playing the longer match. So if you want to argue that plays a factor, you can. I'm not saying it will or it won't, but I do think I'm going to mention it because, of course, with the humidity in Mexico, the more recovery time, the better. So I'm going to mention that. Now, for the actual pricing, the issue that I have with Tiafoe, do I think he should be around minus 140, minus 135? I understand the head-to-head has been in favor of Tiafoe, but at the same point, based on how the event has gone and based on how many competitive matchups we've seen Tiafoe be in recently, I think the price is very expensive for me. I think Tiafoe should not be minus 140 or minus 135. I think it should be closer to a pick'em for me. I don't really see much separating these 2 players. I can make the argument that, as Matt is mentioning, the market's been undervalued on Caboli all week. And I agree with you because I had Caboli to win the quarter at plus 240. I think Caboli's been playing good tennis. Now, yes, Tiafoe has found ways to escape and ways to survive, but almost losing to Kovacevic on a slow hard court's not great. Nagashima imploded. A couple of net cords went Tiafoe's favor there in the second set late. I think Tiafoe's been good, but I don't think minus 140 is justified in my opinion for what I think should be a very close matchup. I think that if you're going for the actual value, I don't really see much on Tiafoe. The counterpoint could be, well, if you think Tiafoe wins, minus 140 is not that expensive, so maybe you should take him anyway. That's kind of the point where I don't feel good enough about Tiafoe actually winning to warrant laying minus 135, minus 140. So I'll be on Caboli for this one. He's getting plus money. I don't really see this being a lopsided final. I think it's going to go 3. I like the over in this one. I think that a 3-setter is pretty realistic based on what we've seen so far from the tournament as a whole, with the amount of just unpredictable matches and the amount of turning points that we've seen within particular matches. But for me, I'm going to be on Caboli here. I just think the pricing is wrong. Tiafoe, I understand, has once again found ways to gain momentum in the middle of matches, and Nakashima, we know, is a guy that's ranked currently in the top 30. Nakashima is a guy who I really don't like that much. I think that he's a pretty one-dimensional player. I don't like his rally game. I think that he's more of a big server. And Tiafoe, I think, was able to eventually wear Nakashima down over the course of the match. But if you're asking based on eye test who I thought looked better in the semis by comparison, I thought Caboli looked better than Tiafoe in the semis. Now, I understand that, opponents make matches, and you can't exactly automatically say Caboli should be favored because he looked better against Kekmanovic than Tiafoe did against Nakashima. I guess it might not be fair, but based on the eye test, I think Caboli looked, worst case scenario, equal to Tiafoe, and that's why I think this pricing feels extremely off to me. If you think Tiafoe wins, then by all means, you can bet on him. But for this pricing, I can't do it. I think 140 feels, in my opinion, wrong. I see Van mentioning that Caboli's an emotional player, which is why you don't exactly want to back him. I think Tiafoe's an emotional player, too. We saw him choke the final 4 games against Tien in Delray. So I don't really feel great about Tiafoe emotionally either. So if you want to argue that Tiafoe wins, you can. I understand the arguments you're going to make. I think Caboli and Tiafoe are both head cases, so I can't really play that argument for one guy or the other. I think both guys can't really be trusted. So if you're going to give me 2 guys that can't really be trusted, and I think that one guy who's been undervalued all week, who's been really good, and he's beaten some pretty decent players, and you're looking at Caboli, who we saw win 2 titles last year. He's been pretty good in finals. He ended up losing in DC to Korda in his first ever final. He won the first set, then his body fell apart, and Korda buried him. But I think Caboli is proven, and I think beating Yibing was a good win. Yibing was in good form the entire week, and Caboli won in straight sets. So I disagree, Van. I think if you want to go for Tiafoe, you can, but at that price, I'm not going to do it. I think Tiafoe and Caboli will have a war. I think Caboli's proven that he has the game to frustrate Tiafoe, at least from what I've seen recently. I know Tiafoe's on him in the head-to-head. I get that's the elephant in the room, so if you want to expect that to happen again, you can. Then again, blindly following head-to-head can be a bit tricky. For example, Rublev, who was 3-0 against Griekspoor, and then lost to an injured version of him in the semis. So I'm not going to blindly fade the head-to-head, or blindly back or fade the head-to-head. I kind of just use it as another reference. But I do think that Caboli has some value at this current price. I just cannot trust Tiafoe at minus 140. I just can't do it. So give me Caboli in this one. I'm not sure if fatigue will play a factor. I do think Tiafoe playing longer in humidity and having less time to recover is not ideal. It might not matter in the final, but I do think that I have to at least acknowledge that it happened. So I think Caboli is going to surprise some people. I think he'll be competitive. I think he might win the match, but I think it will be a war nonetheless. I got the over. I think you're going to see a war. Even if Tiafoe wins, I don't see him repeating the dominant wins that we've seen over the head-to-head history. I think we get 3 sets either way. So if you're going to give me a coin flip, give me the plus money. I think Caboli has some value. I think if you want to go for Tiafoe, you might find a better price in play than pre-match minus 135, minus 140. So I'll go for Caboli at plus money, and I'll go for the over. My match prediction, I'll go Caboli in 3. I think it'll be very close. I think it will come down to the wire. If you want to potentially live bet the other guy when one player is serving it out for the championship, there might be value on that too, because I'm not sure Tiafoe or Caboli will hold his nerves if he's serving for the title. So that could be a potential late break. So the live pricing might be phenomenal. If you want to jump in for a live line, that's what you can do. I definitely can recommend that. But I like the over as my favorite play, so to speak. I think it will be close either way. That's kind of my thoughts, but I'll go for Caboli for the plus money. Anyways, let's go wrap it up for the preview of Acapulco. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. Before we get into the lock and dog, a reminder they're brought to you by our sponsor, Arnold Fantasy, so they'll be covered for pick'em entries. for almost every single sport, including tennis. They increased their payouts recently. 2-pick entries are now at 3.5x, and 3-pick payouts are now 6.5x. So once again, capitalize on the greater payouts. If you're new to the platform, though, use the actual sign-up deal that we have. So play just $5 and you'll get $75 bonus funds. We sign the promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy. We're also brought to you by Novig. So Novig, of course, is America's #1 prediction market for sports in America, and you'll be getting some great prices. Check out the reduced juice there for different markets. Download the Novig app, and you'll get a great sign-up deal courtesy of us. So you'll get $50 in bonus funds when you spend just $5 if you use the code SGPN at sign-up. Get on the actual Novig promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the preview of the final in Acapulco between Cobolli and Tiafoe. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. For the lock, I said before my favorite play was going to be the over. That will be the lock for the show. I'll take the 22.5 at -125. Now, for the actual trends for both guys, we have seen both guys dropping sets, and we have seen both guys going to a lot of 7-5s or 7-6s. There has been a 7-5 or a 7-6 set in 6 of Cobolli's last 7 matches, and there's been a 7-5 or a 7-6 set in 4 of Tiafoe's last 6 matches. We saw, for example, in the semis, each of these players did have a tiebreak set, so you might end up seeing a potential straight set win that can still go over a 22.5. So a couple of ways to get there. Tiafoe, though, has been dealing, I'd say, he has not been giving himself a lot of, I'd say, leeway in these matches. There's been a lot of competitive wars recently for Tiafoe. 4 of his last 6 matches have not ended in straight sets. So a couple ways to get to the over. Once again, you might get a breaker and maybe a 6-4, or you end up getting each head case to lose a set, and you get yourself a marathon in the third. A couple ways to get there, but I like the over as my lock. I think no matter who wins the final, there will be a bunch of momentum swings. Give me the over as my lock for the show. For my dog, I'm going to go with the value, in my opinion, which is going to be Cobolli money line at +115. Tiafoe has had a couple of very close calls, and he's been surviving. Nakashima served for the match in the semis. Kovacevic had 2 match points in the round of 16, and Tiafoe hit an absurd return winner on one of them. I get Tiafoe can be a very emotional player, and right now emotions are positive because he's been able to survive and make it into a final. He also hasn't won a title since 2023, and Cobolli has won 2 last year. So I do wonder if nerves will play a factor for Tiafoe. Cobolli also, if you want to mention it, he did play first yesterday. Tiafoe played roughly 3 hours with a less recovery time, if you want to factor it in. But it's mainly the price for me. I see a pure coin flip final, and I do think that it could go either way. So based on the pricing, I do think -135 is wrong. I'll take the value at plus money, in my opinion, for what I think should be basically a 50-50 match. So give me Cobolli as my dog at +115. So once again, the lock and dog for the show. The lock's going to be on Cobolli and Tiafoe over 22.5 games, -125. For the dog, give me Cobolli money line at +115. Anyway, let's go wrap it up for the show. Back once again for the final in Santiago. So keep an eye out for an episode potentially later on tonight. I will be honest, I'm in Pennsylvania right now, so we'll see what my schedule is, but I'm going to try to record an episode for the final in Santiago. And of course, we also have the Indian Wells event coming up, so there is a bit of a layoff after Santiago ends and the beginning of Indian Wells. We might have a day off in between, but either way, we should be back again for another one-match preview episode for Santiago, so keep an eye out for that. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.